we still are waiting for a few participants to join. Probably the other session is wrapping up, and soon you're gonna see the flow of people joining. Just a few more seconds, or perhaps 1-2 minutes, so people can come from one session to another. We will be starting soon. Okay, I see a lot of new attendees. The audience is coming, so let's start it. Hello, everyone. My name is Paulo Spironi. I'm the manager of strategy, governance, and innovation at the Prime Secretariat. It's my pleasure to kick off the panel discussion 6, the role of big companies in advancing social and environmental issues directly associated with their business. Today, we have outstanding speakers here joining us from various parts of the world. And the session will be moderated by Vinati Konda. Vinati is an undergraduate student studying business management with a minor in globally responsible business practice at George Mason University in Virginia, the United States. She has been part of the Prime Global Student Team since June 2022 as the PGS regional leader in North America. She has also served as the vice president and president of her sustainability-focused student organization in George Mason University Business School. Vinati has a passion for combining sustainability and business since high school and is hoping to continue that interest in the workforce. Besides that all, Vinati is a close friend and outstanding Prime Global student leader. So thank you so much for leading this session. I will leave you and the others the room now for your show.
Thank you so much, Paulo. All right, so as Paulo mentioned, our topic today is the role of big companies in advancing social and environmental issues directly associated with their businesses. Essentially, some companies are striving to make progress towards ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance commitments, in order to contribute to the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. That's a long road to pursue, and there are challenges to be overcome, such as the short-term decision-making and pure shareholder value vision. So to comment on these topics, we have 3 wonderful panelists today, and I'll be doing a brief introduction. So Ruth Areli García-León is a steering committee member of the Prime Chapter DACH in Germany. After working in the marketing and communications fields in the public and private sectors, Dr. García-León moved to academia, where she occupied different management positions, such as the professor and director of the Department of Marketing and Communication at Tec de Monterrey in Mexico. She has more than 20 years of experience lecturing communication, marketing, and management courses for graduate and undergraduate students in Spanish, English, and German languages at different universities in Latin America and Europe. Her research interest focuses on sustainable consumption, responsible management education, and cross-sector partnerships for sustainable development. She's part of the steering committee for chapter in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and the steering committee of the Prime Working Group on Climate Change and Environment, amongst other groups. And since 2022, she has been a judge of the QS Reimagined Education Awards, so-called Oscars of Education. Dr. García-León holds a PhD in Education Sciences, a Master in Marketing, a MSc in Communication, a Licentiate in Communication Sciences, and is a certified coach and trainer of cross-cultural competencies in Latin America and Europe. Next, we have Manuela Cantalice, the founder of Planet A and consultant from Brazil. Manuela Cantalice is the founder of Planet A, which is a consulting-based company in Brazil. Her expertise spans corporate sustainability strategy, climate policy, and the intersection of climate finance and a just transition. She helps governments, NGOs, and companies to become simultaneously more prosperous and more sustainable by identifying resource efficiency opportunities and embedding a people-centered approach into policy and governance. Manuela has held positions at the Brazilian Forum on Climate Change, Brazilian Mission to the United Nations, Climate Policy Initiative, and the UK government. She speaks Portuguese, English, French, and Spanish, and holds an MSc in Development Management from the London School of Economics. Was awarded with a Chevening Scholarship by the Foreign, Commonwealth, and Development Office, and a BA in International Relations from the Fluminense Federal University in Brazil. And finally, we have Hettie Bawden, the NTSU Sustainability Officer from England. Hettie works as a sustainability officer at Nottingham Trent Student Union and is supporting the organization to reduce their environmental impact in accordance with the Sustainable Development Goals. In her role, Hettie has worked on developing a sustainability strategy, calculated the organization's carbon footprint, and established reduction pathways. And she's making progress towards environmental management systems and continues to engage the organization's student membership and other beneficiaries in progress made. Throughout this work, Hettie has engaged the senior management team in plans and progress as part of an ongoing effort to embed sustainability into the organization's culture from top down. So the first question regarding this topic will be for Ruth. Do you think you could expand on why are companies important actors regarding SDGs and how you think they could accelerate their contribution to the different SDGs? And are there any specific examples or best practices that demonstrate the positive impact of such partnerships on both corporate sustainability and the broader societal and environmental goals?
Hello, first, thank you very much for this warm welcome. And I want to congratulate you all for organizing the second PGS Summit. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you very much for having me today. It is a pleasure to be here with you today in this remarkable event with the students from all over the world. Why companies are important actors for sustainable development? Well, the ability of companies to innovate, scale, and invest provide us with a powerful base for positive change. One of the basic functions of companies is to add value to society. And sustainability is a crucial requirement that businesses should address to contribute to society and the environment. We know that for many, many years, multinational companies have been seen as the main contributors towards unsustainability. They have been blamed for being responsible for impacting negatively our society and the environment. They have received, and they are receiving now, pressure from government, non-governmental organizations, non-profit organizations, and the consumers to shift these efforts away from the traditional short-term economic gain to refocus these efforts towards a long-term sustainable activities Therefore, it is important and urgent that corporations balance these economic aspects of the activities and the needs of society and the environment. So maybe not many will agree with me today, but I think that the interest of companies regarding sustainable development is growing. Maybe slow, but companies are taking this commitment seriously. For example, many companies are taking are joining the Global Compact movement, and they want to align their strategies and operations to advance social and economic, but as well environmental goals. It is true that the progress of the companies have been slow, but as well it is true that companies, academia, third sector organizations have been working in isolation. We all are part of this society, and we all are able to contribute to sustainability. We all are interconnected: business, third sector organizations, academia, and civil society, the students as well. Therefore, we should move together to ensure progress and long-term sustainability for our society and the environment. We should look for a systematic collaboration with all those sectors. I think that the best way to accelerate the contribution of companies to the sustainable development goals is through collaboration. The Sustainable Development Goal 17 calls to collaborate towards sustainable development by means of global partnerships. We need collaboration at the local, regional, and international level, but as well, these collaborations need to include governments, companies, non-profit organizations, civil society, and other stakeholders. And with these partnerships, it will be possible to share knowledge, expertise, technology, and of course, financial resources. All these sectors are called to join efforts to reach the Sustainable Development Goals. And all these sectors, including business, are key actors and part of the solution. And I really think that sector partnerships or multi-stakeholder partnerships are fundamental to progress towards sustainable development. And you ask for an example. There are a lot of examples, but for example, I can say Mary Kay, a large multinational business, have been helping to empower women in China, for example. So this is one example that I remember the most, but there are as well other examples. But what I want to finish saying that I really believe that collaboration among corporations and other sectors is key to accelerate the contribution of companies to the different sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those insights, Ruth. So the next question will be for Manuela. How can big companies ensure that they strike the right balance between meeting short-term and financial targets and fulfilling their long-term ESG commitments, especially in industries where there's a risk of greenwashing? Furthermore, how can they demonstrate that this dedication is genuine with their social commitments with relevant stakeholders?
Wow, that's a big question. That's the billion-dollar question. First, I want to say thank you so much for having me on this panel today. And I want to make myself available for all the attendees here to keep this conversation going afterwards. I can share that I was a student myself not long ago, at the London School of Economics when I was doing my master's in development management and international relations. So anything you want to talk about, like career and how I entered on this space, I'd be very, very happy to, because I feel like climate change was a calling for me, is a calling for me, is a mission. And I started very, very passionate about human rights. And I didn't think I was going to work in environment and climate change. But then I realized the human element of tackling the climate crisis. And then I fell in love with this agenda. And I never thought that I would be working in climate finance. But then I realized the power of moving billions and trillions and thinking about innovative financial instruments in order to tackle the big problems of this world. And that's why I say that the just transition lens is so important. So answering your question, I think that a really, really important way for companies and financial institutions to try to strike a balance between the short-term financial goals and long-term ESG commitments, it starts with participation, having more participatory processes, inclusivity. It's we need to go to a new dimension of diversity. So I work specifically with nature-based solutions these days. So when we talk about NBS, how can we make sure that the true experts in nature are being involved? So TNFD, for example, is doing an amazing work. You must have heard about them. So it's the task force on nature-related financial disclosures, like coming from a similar framework as the TCFD. And now we have an opportunity to have like this framework for companies to start to evaluate what are their impacts in nature and biodiversity. So coming from a logic of protecting nature as a cost in P&Ls to actually becoming an asset. So the importance of seeing this as something that matters in terms, they are going to pay for it. They might like it or not, but they are going to pay for loss in biodiversity and nature. So that's the first click. Oh my God, we need to be careful. What is the crisis here? And what could happen for us, like in terms of really thinking about the impacts, the risk assessment. But also there is like a new stage to it. Besides risk, how can we think about the opportunities? Like what lies beyond the 30 by 30 initiative that is a part of the global biodiversity framework that was signed off in Montreal? So there is a lot in there to unpack. And I was in New York not long ago during Climate Week, and TNFD was launched on that direction. So I think that has a really important and concrete signal of how you can actually focus on reporting and transparency and the importance of frameworks for that. So that's one. And if I still have more time, I would also like to talk about what you said about greenwashing. So we all have heard about greenwashing, right? When companies make misleading claims about their environmental impact, but there is also a new phenomenon, which is green hushing. So what does green hushing means? It has to do when organizations deliberately decide not to report or to underreport or hide their green credentials from public to avoid this public scrutiny. And we have a real issue with that. If you over-report or under-report, you're not being real and you're not being bold. So we need companies and financial institutions to be both, to be real and to be bold, because that's how we influence one another. And companies need pressure from all sides, including smart regulations, conscious clients, and as well as employees. So if you're thinking about organizations that you want to join in the future, that you want to be a part of, you have a really important role to play, making sure that the companies that you work for and that you work with, that they are not greenwashing and they're not green hushing. You as a part of this ecosystem, you have a role to play to make sure that you're being both real and bold. Last but not least, the importance of going beyond shareholder. So thinking beyond profit. So what about the impact that I have on this region, on indigenous communities, on local communities? That's thinking about stakeholders, not only the shareholders. So companies need to have a proactive participatory engagement, and that's how we're going to make just transition a reality. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you a little bit. Happy to talk more in the end of the conversation.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Manuela. That was actually my first time hearing of green hushing, so that's really nice to learn about. So the next question is for Hettie. In the realm of corporate responsibility, we often see big companies with significant influence and resources. How can they ensure that their influence and planning translate into tangible action that can genuinely drive positive social and environmental change? And what are some strategies or mechanisms that can be employed to bridge this gap between planning and meaningful action?
Thank you very much. And thank you again for inviting me to be a part of this panel. I'm very honoured to be here amongst such esteemed speakers. That's a very good question. It's a very weighty question. So, as you mentioned, big companies really do have a significant capacity to influence behaviours and to ignite change. But unfortunately, as Manuela mentioned, many companies are found guilty of greenwashing as a result of failing to enact upon their promised changes or potentially overcommitting to unfeasible targets. It is really vitally important that companies take the time to stop and consider how their strategies will be implemented on an operational level, and vital again to embed plans for sustainability into the governance structures so that commitments made on an environmental level can be embedded throughout a social plane. And this is where ESG, environmental, social and governance structures come in. So as I said, Manuela spoke about the balance between green hushing and greenwashing, and this is a real challenge for a lot of companies, and it's difficult to get it right sometimes, especially when society is becoming ever more tuned into what businesses are doing. Being transparent with your stakeholders and with your customers is vitally important. And I would say that no matter what level you're at, whether you're just starting off on your sustainability journey or whether you are well established in it, be transparent about that. Don't try and pretend that you're further along than you are. As an example, the company that I work for only began our sustainability journey about 13 months ago when I started the role. And so if you look on our website, we admit to that. We say we're new to it. In our reports that we write, we say this is where we are, but this is where we want to go. And we don't make any claims to be further ahead in the game than we are in this present moment. What is really important strategy for companies to embed, though, is the importance of bringing their employees along on the journey and building in that investment in the strategies from within the company, internally. There are still many people that will consider sustainability as the job of one person or one team within an organization. And speaking from experience, this is incorrect. Sustainability is, or at least it should be, an all-staff effort within a company. This will happen on different levels depending on the roles of an individual, but it is the responsibility of every staff member to embed a sustainability strategy throughout their work. Achieving this will not only strengthen the likelihood of a company being able to achieve the actions that they set out to, but the employees can then also act as change makers. They can spread the word about the positive progress that the company is making on an informal level to their family, to their friends, to their acquaintances, and it builds knowledge and trust in the process throughout. This can be done by embedding sustainability into job descriptions, staff inductions, training, policies, and making it a standard part of day-to-day practices. I know that sometimes slowing down can be seen as a negative thing, but actually I would argue in this instance it's quite a positive. And taking the time to stop as a company, don't rush into it, don't make a commitment before you've had to think about how you're going to achieve that financially and socially, can actually accelerate your progress and help you achieve your actions much easier and quicker in the long term.
Thank you for sharing that, Hettie. Yeah, it is always a general lesson to both companies and individuals that it is okay to slow down and take a step back, to be more mindful of what you're doing. So now we have an open question for any or all panelists. Today, many students are connected to our second PGS Summit. And in the future, they will have companies or nonprofit organizations, or they'll work in big companies or nonprofit organizations. What do you think they need to consider when collaborating with other sectors or companies to contribute to the SDGs?
Well, I can answer. I think that first of all, they need to consider that when collaborating with different types of organizations, they will face clashes of goals, objectives, values, culture, language, strategies, and as well management styles, etc. No? But despite these challenges, there are very good relationships that have prospered between organizations and non-profit organizations or other actors. No? I recommend specifically to define the goal. Very important. No, is the environmental or social issue that your company or organization is going to address. For example, to promote lifelong learning opportunities or to promote well-being for all, etc. So, and as well to try to visualize if this goal is an expression of the mission or vision of the company, or is the focal cause of the nonprofit organization. But as well to look for organization or for opportunities to collaborate with other companies or organizations that share the same interests in addressing the same goal. As well, other could be to be open to new ways of thinking. Each sector has different drivers, different modes of operation, different strategic goals, but as well, each sector has many different and diverse attributes that they can bring to the partnership. So this is important. It's important as well to let go your own priorities and to be open to create new priorities and objectives to reach this goal. As well, to be open to uncertainty, because you don't know what will happen. And when working with these complex issues and a system, there is a level of uncertainty, and with the time, they will come confidence. They will have confidence when creating and designing solutions together. To value diversity as an element of change. This is important as well. Collaborations between organizations from different countries need to advance cultural, language, of course, but as well mindset challenges. That's why it's important to be open and to have honest and transparent conversations or communications with all the collaborators. Other advice should be to determine the resources with which every partner will participate, the length of the partnership, and as well to determine how they are going to measure the success and the effectiveness of the partnership. I think these are my advice. Thank you.
Super wise, Ruth. Thank you so much for sharing. I will add a few things as well of like my own experience. So when I started to work in this space, I remember being introduced to Sustainable Development Goals in 2016 for the first time, and we had a lot of ambition. I remember at the time the UN had this data that less than 2% of the world had heard about the SDGs that year, and I was like, oh my gosh, only 2%. We have so much to do. And of course, that's very different now with the 17 goals, very colorful, spread out around the world, and like companies. But I also heard that sometimes there is, just like greenwashing, there's like a rainbow washing. So I think that is important also for us to pay attention to that. It's really difficult to tackle all of the 17 SDGs, and that's why it's so important to see which companies and organizations are showing a bigger dedication to a goal. I think that's really important because even inside of a goal, there's like so many targets already. So I think that's, for me, for example, the SDG 13 was one that I felt particularly called to and passionate about. But of course, there's like much more in SDG 17 that's very much a part of my work. Focus on stakeholder engagement and all that. But yeah, try to find which of the SDGs is something that really aligns with you, and then look for an organization that is focusing on such. And I think that a really healthy environment that invites you to contribute as a person is really important. And in order for you to find that out, talk to people that work in that organization. Have a one-to-one, send them a message on LinkedIn and say, hey, I heard about this organization. You're doing an amazing work. Can we have a chat? And you're going to be surprised with the amount of people that will say yes. And then you can have an honest conversation about what they are doing, what is the environment like, what are their like leadership styles. This was something that I did not care about when I was early on in my career. Oh, leadership styles, that doesn't really matter. That matters so much. You need to find an environment that works for you. Because in that generation, and I'm going to bring this here, okay, Paolo, I know that is a bit nobody wants to talk about, but there is like a good thing that we are working with purpose, and that's amazing. I'm 100% for that. We need to work for purpose, but we get bored of things too quickly, and then we just change. Like, we have lost our resilience. So I would say do a lot of research before you join an organization. And once you join them, commit yourself for a period of time, because things are not going to be smooth all the time. They're not going to be colorful and nice and exciting all the time. But if you're committed to a purpose, it's just like our families. We love our families, but we have our challenges. So same thing with our jobs. I think you should align with them, with your values. Of course, if there is like a big red flag, just jump out of that boat. But if possible, do your due diligence beforehand, and then commit to a certain period of time and grow, because we all have good things and bad things and challenges that we need to work through. Same thing with the people that are going to hire you. But yeah, try to find a place where you can speak your mind. I think that's one of the most important things, and that you identify with the goal and the diversity. So yeah.
I think Ruth and Manuela have said some fantastic comments there, so I don't have too much to add apart from just to echo again the SDG 17, the partnership for the goals, sums it all up really. The SDGs were created to enable people to unite over a set of common goals. And as Ruth said, even though our methodologies and our priorities may be different, the intent is the same. We're all trying to get to the same place for a more sustainable future for the world. And I think, speaking from personal experience, the most important takeaway that I can give to attendees today is to help other people that are at the start of their sustainability journey, help other companies that are just starting out, and also accept words of wisdom and learn from companies who are more advanced, whether they are within the same industry as you or outside of it. I came into this industry without any prior experience when I started into a company that was new into the sector as well, and we would not have been able to have made the progress that we have without the support of others within the industry. And I am very fortunate to now be in a position to be able to support other organisations within the higher education sector in the UK to be able to make sustainable progress as well. And it is something that I'm very passionate about, in bringing them along on the journey. Sometimes it can feel like a competition because you want to be the best in your sector, but ultimately we all are working towards the same goals, and that's important to remember.
Thank you all for sharing your insights on that. First, I wanted to say to all the participants, if you guys have any questions, I would like to open the floor for you to pop them in the chat for the panelists. And in response to your thoughts, coming from the perspective of a student graduating soon and entering the workforce, while I'm looking into companies now, that is something I've been actively doing, learning about their sustainability initiatives, how they prioritize it. And especially if there's an open environment where I have the potential to be a change maker and really initiate projects that I might be more interested in if they don't exist already. So it's really insightful to know that that is the path to go. Because especially in college, having a strong focus with sustainability in my education and organizations, it is always a fear that, oh, what if this isn't the right placement? Or what if they don't have environmental initiatives? So I would definitely say researching and talking to them before is a very good strategy. So looking at the chat throughout or comments earlier in the panel, there was a comment about how large companies that produce crop products should collaborate with landfills in the main cities of the world. Do you all have any thoughts on that? I guess, I assume that landfills fall under maybe governmental side, so companies working with the government to really look at the full life cycle of their products and waste.
Yeah, I think it falls on waste management, circular economy, right? And it's not my area of expertise, but I'm a big fan of the work of other organizations that work on that. For example, C40 does brilliant work when it comes to waste management at the subnational level. And then when it comes to circular economy, I can think about K2A work and the Donut Economics, as well as Circle Economy, which is this organization from the Netherlands, Amsterdam. They're also doing an amazing job on that. So if you're interested in waste management and circular economy, and I'm 100% with you that this is it's a responsibility of the companies, I would advise you to look into those organizations and their studies.
There was another question in the chat around companies that are following a model of becoming net zero or net negative companies. What are some companies that are following this model, and is there any coalition among those organizations so they can, support each other and encourage each other to follow this net zero, net negative goals?
I think that in the future, the companies will join together to follow one strategic sustainable development goal. And yes, I as well, I don't know any like corporation, but for example, in our group group of climate change. We, for example, we have a trainer of carbon literacy training, and I think that this is important to know and for the companies. And yes, I don't know any group for that, but I think that in the future there will be companies that will focus in 1 or 2 sustainable development goals. Like Manuela said, we cannot target all of them. We need to choose just one. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's always like cross-sector, but I do think that a bit of focus is good. And just like adding up to what you said, Ruth, and you mentioned it in the beginning, I think Global Compact is a good place to start. As a network. I think in the comments someone mentioned B Corps, and there's like B Lab, who is behind the certification of B Corp. What else? I think that in terms of companies that are doing like great job on that, definitely Patagonia, which I'm a huge fan, and Natura in Brazil, which is like the 4th largest pure play beauty company in the world. Like they bought the Body Shop, and they are like super committed to, you know, not only cruelty free, but like their standards, like social environmental standards, are super high. But yeah, I think that the biggest like coalitions in the world for that would be like Global Compact and yeah, the B Lab, as well as thinking about net zero pathways, climate champions, but that's more on a government level. But there's always like space for the private sector to be a part of those conversations as well.
Speaking from the higher education sector in the UK, universities have grouped together to form their own kind of like working groups and projects. So there are a few companies that are specifically designed now to bring together various universities from across the UK to share thoughts and ideas, best practice. Many universities in the UK now are striving towards net zero, and you will often see research from those universities popping up as a way to help to reach those targets, whether that's around streamlining the reporting processes, guidance about financing net zero targets, or other ways of actioning progress towards it. So I think that within a sector, there's very frequently working groups, whether they're formal or informally established, to support each other.
Well, we are nearing the end of our panel, so I just wanted to wrap up and say thank you so much to all of you for coming and speaking about these issues, because it is, you know, very pressing, and especially for students who are about to enter this workforce, just to be aware of the ongoing industry trends and opportunities, and industry leaders. So thank you so much for sharing your insights, and I hope all of the participants learned a lot too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn and we can continue the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Also, pleasure to meet you, Ruth and Hettie and Vinati.
Yes, nice to meet you too,
and
Manuela.
It was
thank you,
wonderful
Francis,
meeting you.
for hosting as well.
Bye.
Of course.